You're listening to a DM podcast.
Cricket et al. It's a website, it's a podcast.
Pete, it's a way of life. It's Gideon Haig over here.
It's Peter Lawler over here.
And welcome to a special edition of Cricket et al. With a very special cause and a very special guest. Greg Chappell joins us today. Welcome to Cricket et al. Again, Greg Chappell.
Thank you, Gideon. It's very nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
It's always an honour to have a man of your standing in cricket and in life, Greg, on our podcast.
Thank you, Peter.
And we're aware of that. But there's a reason we've got you on. Yesterday, you and 13 fellow international cricket captains put out an open letter in support of your old mate Imran Khan, who's in real trouble in Pakistan, according to all reports. I think we're all aware that he was deposed as Prime Minister in 2022. He was jailed in 2023 and has essentially disappeared from public view. But in that time, he's had 186 legal cases launched against him. He's currently facing 31 years in jail and counting, which is effectively a life sentence for a man of his age. But of great concern is his health at the moment. We're hearing that he's in poor health, that he's in solitary confinement. Respected international groups have suggested that this amounts to torture. Amnesty International have taken an interest. But yesterday, you and 13 of your colleagues put out an open letter calling on the Pakistan government to treat your former colleague and competitor better. How did this come about, and what's the aim of what you're doing here?
Well, it's taken a little bit of time. I've kept in touch with Imran over the years, and I've had the opportunity to work in Pakistan over the years in a variety of roles. Back in 2004, I was coaching at the National Cricket Academy in Lahore for a while, and I made a point of catching up with him. And then, I was in his country, so I wanted to make sure that I touched base. And we had a lovely dinner, and at that dinner, he talked about his aims of getting involved, or in fact, he'd started getting involved in politics at that stage. And I must admit I was a bit incredulous that he was doing that, and asked him why he would want to put himself through that. And I think his exact words were, "Greg, I want my country to be the country it can be." Mm-hmm. And and with the conversation that we had for the rest of that evening, it was obvious that he was doing it for the right reasons. He wanted to do it for his people, as he talked about them. Perhaps going back a step, what was probably the nucleus of this for him was when they won the Cricket World Cup here in Australia in '92. He took the World Cup back to Pakistan, and he decided to take it on a tour of Pakistan to show his people that this is their World Cup. Mm. And on that tour, he did a video of the tour, which I've seen subsequently. It was a fabulous story and a fabulous video. And some of the things that he heard from around the country really touched his heart. Farmers from all walks of life, just how tough people were doing it in Pakistan. And that was the drive for him to get involved in politics. And then when I was back in Pakistan as coach of the Indian cricket team on tour there in 2006, again, I caught up with him at a friend's home and we had dinner. And at that stage, he just failed, I think, in his first attempt to get seats in Parliament. And, we talked about it and, how tough it had been and, probably he'd done nothing like it ever before. And I said, "Are you, disappointed? How do you feel about that?" And he said, "Look, Greg, life is a 7-year cycle. Politics is a 7-year cycle." He said, "If I've missed this one, I'll get the next one." And that's exactly what happened. In the next 7-year cycle, he got into Parliament. He got seats in Parliament. His party got seats in Parliament. And then I was back there in 2019, or actually early 2020, on business with some business partners. And again, while I was there, at that stage he was Prime Minister, and I thought, well, I can't be rude. I'm in his country. I should at least make contact. So through a mutual friend, we made contact, and he invited me to come down. I was in Lahore, and to go down to Islamabad and meet him. And I think it's 3 or so hours by road from Lahore to Islamabad, and I drove down. The Pakistan Premier League was on at that stage, so Shane Watson and Viv Richards were in town. So the three of us met in his office. We were meant to have a 15-minute get-together, which was extended because Imran wanted to extend it each time. We were there for about 45 minutes, and I reckon his chief of staff came in about 5 times and said, sir. And I think we were wedged between the Americans and the Saudis or somebody, and I think it was the Americans that were waiting, and I think the message came through that we're not going to wait any longer. So the chief of staff was quite agitated by this time. And we left, but Imran made the comment. He said, I haven't had this much fun in this office in all the time that I've been in office. So, and, he told us that day that he was under an extreme amount of pressure, and, that things were likely to hot up within the next few weeks, and they did. And so, I've been following and keeping in contact with him as much as possible. But since he's been in jail, it's been impossible. I'm in touch with one of his very best friends on a regular basis, and not even his family have been able to see him while he's in jail. So this has been sort of troubling me for a while, but I thought, well, what difference does one voice make?
Yeah.
And it was in conversation with my friend Darshat Mehta that he said, well, why don't you talk to other captains and see if you can get a group of captains that make a statement that might carry a bit more weight. And so that sort of came to a head probably last Sunday. And I started contacting captains, and, I contacted probably 20 people. Some didn't respond, some declined, and that's fine. I mean, they were all, it was up to everybody's own conscience and decision as to which way they went. But the 13 other names that's joined me with the application or the petition did it with alacrity. I mean, they all came back within minutes and said yes. That was probably what staggered me the most. And I think, to be fair, Sunny Gavaskar and Kapil Dev probably had a bit more pressure than the rest of us, but they both reacted instantly. And, you've probably seen the comments from Sunny that he, played together with Imran in Worcester, or was together. They were both there together. And so they've been friends for a long time. And this is... The thing that I wanted to avoid was that this is not a political statement. This is a human rights statement. And hearing that his health was declining quite rapidly in recent times probably hastened my urgency to get something done, and then to find out maybe a week or so ago that his right eye, his right eye is pretty much gone. Generally speaking, the sort of cell that he's kept in is like a death row cell. So it just didn't seem right. And, to myself, I thought, well, if I was in that situation, I would want friends and colleagues to put their hand up and say something. So that's sort of where it came from.
It's quite a list of people that have come to the party, and come to the party very quickly on this. Sounds like it's come together in a couple of days, but in alphabetical order. Mike Atherton from England, Alan Border from Australia, obviously, Mike Brearley, you and your brother Ian, Belinda Clark from Australia, as you said, Kapil Dev and Sunil Gavaskar, David Gower, Kim Hughes, Nasser Hussain, Clive Lloyd, Steve Waugh and John Wright. That's a formidable group of people, isn't it?
What?
You say it's not political and it's social. It's interesting, isn't it, to reflect on the social capital, the sort of social, the reputation that these people have and the ability to take notice in a situation like that, as you mentioned, that to draw attention to this. But you're drawing attention to this not for political reasons, as you said, but out of human rights reasons. This is no way to treat any human being, is it?
No, and I think that's the thing, harnessing the power of cricket was what we were trying to do in the end, because a one-off voice is not going to make much difference. And, who knows, this might not make a lot of difference, but I think it must make the Pakistan government uncomfortable that this group from all around the world is, is making some noise and bringing some more focus to a situation that is unacceptable. And since the release of the statement yesterday, there have been a number of other captains who said, gee, I would have loved to have been involved. So I think, we'll probably do an update at some point and allow those that I didn't have time to contact or didn't think of contacting, because these are from other countries, Sri Lanka and from elsewhere. And I think this is, everybody has respect for Imran within cricket. Everybody respects where he sits in the pantheon of great players and of great all-rounders. I mean, I was thinking about it in the early hours this morning. I think in my lifetime, you've probably got Keith Miller, Jacques Kallis and Imran Khan, who were genuine all-rounders, who could have played as a bowler or in the top four as a batsman. The rest were either good enough as a bowler or good enough as a batsman and weren't bad at the other. And generally they were bowlers who could bat a bit, but they wouldn't have never batted in the top four, wouldn't have been picked as a batsman. Imran started as a batsman. I mean, when I first batted against him, he was a medium pacer, and I mean a medium pacer. But then the next time I saw him, he'd got fit, he'd got strong, and he decided he wanted to bowl fast. And he ran in and he bowled fast, and he was quick and could keep doing it. I think he missed probably 2 seasons of his career through shin splints and whatnot from the effort of turning himself into a fast bowler, which is no mean feat.
The other aspect of him, Greg, is that even before he was a political leader, he was a cricketing leader. He had that additional dimension, didn't he? I mean, the other great all-rounders of that period were all great players, but none of them were captains as well. And Imran's inspirational properties were sort of fundamental to the breakthrough of Pakistan cricket. And,
no doubt.
And while your endeavour isn't politically motivated, it has a political dimension insofar as one of the policies of the Pakistan government since Imran's imprisonment has been to try and disappear Imran from the public consciousness, because his party is an extension of himself. You mentioned the 1992 World Cup recently. Well, the Pakistan Cricket Board put out a celebratory video of that World Cup victory recently, in which Imran had been deleted. It's just astounding to think that you could actually represent the 1992 World Cup win without Imran in it. Imran's party, the Justice Party, has used the cricket bat as its electoral symbol because, it's fundamental to reaching the maximum number of people. And the Supreme Court upheld a judgment by the Election Commission that they were not allowed to do that.
They took his bat. Yeah.
They took his bat.
Really?
It's very, very difficult to mention Imran on Twitter these days, apparently. The minute that you do, Elon Musk has reached some sort of accommodation with the Pakistan government that your tweet is turned down. I know I'm calling it Twitter. It's still Twitter to me. I know it's now X. And it's even impossible to use his prison number publicly. His prison number, since he's gone into jail, is prison number 804, and it's been turned into a kind of a rallying symbol, the number 804. People have it as number plates. People chant it at the cricket. And, it's that's a way of attracting attention, and antagonistic attention. So by you drawing attention to Imran, by you reminding everyone of Imran's greatness, you do step kind of into the political sphere.
Well, it's hard not to be in the political sphere when it's such a politically charged environment. I mean, it's obvious as a politician, he's in politics, but we're not arguing that. I mean, that's a situation that, is being dealt with in whatever way it's being dealt with. But this was about, here's a mate who's being treated pretty bad. Yeah. And it's nice to know that there are some international bodies who are making some song and dance about it. But, it just didn't seem that there were enough people that were making enough noise. And that was sort of was gnawing away at me. And I just didn't know how to solve that problem. And I'd thought about his kids, and his boys. I haven't spoken to him probably for most of that, the time that he's been in jail. And he's a very, going back to what you were saying, they wouldn't have won the World Cup in 92 without Imran. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The difference, he's such a charismatic character and he demands people to, do their role. And I know what it was like playing against Pakistan when he was on the field and when he was off the field.
Yes.
They would be, some of the bowlers, with Imran standing in mid-off were quite formidable. But if Imran went off the field for some reason or other, the whole thing would change.
Mm.
We have to, and I wonder if he spoke to you about this, acknowledge the courage of his convictions and it's genuine courage. I mean, it is one thing for a former sports person to become a politician in New Zealand, let's say, or Australia. It's very much another thing in Pakistan where the patterns are clear, where a democratically elected government has never served a full term, that you only ever serve at the mercy of the army, the armed forces over there. They essentially control everything, and if you fall out with them, you fall out with them. He had achieved a lot before he embarked on that political career. He had built cancer hospitals around the country, and he could have continued in a similar vein. He would have gone into this situation eyes wide open. Did you speak about that when you spoke to him?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, his response was probably predictable in hindsight, was that, well, if that's what God wants, that's what God wants. I'm in his hands, what will be, will be. I asked him about, he was obviously under threat of, being assassinated and so on. And he said, that's not something I think about. I mean.
And he was shot 2 years ago at a rally, yes.
Yeah, but he trusted in God and believed that he was being protected. And if he wasn't, well, that was the way it was meant to be.
And Imran will regard this present discomfort as merely a phase, because I think I did read elsewhere that every elected Prime Minister of Pakistan in the last 50 years has served some time in jail. It's just a very extreme form of being leader of the opposition.
Well, and some have had their life foreshortened.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of it,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but it's a very real prospect.
You would think that, it would have been easy to have just sent him into exile and just at least allow him to live a life and, be able to look after his health and so on. And Peter, you made a point about the hospitals, and as I understand it, they're free hospitals. He's raised all this money and built these hospitals in the memory of his mother. And
yes,
I'm just staggered at what he's been able to achieve, and yet I'm not surprised because he is that charismatic, that powerful. When he walks into a room, people take notice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that, as a cricketer, that was the way it was. As a politician, I'm sure exactly. People were threatened by someone like him because of his aura and his power, personal, power and charm. They were threatened by him, and obviously that's played its part in this. But again, what we are arguing about is that at least keep him in good conditions and look after him the way a human being should be looked after.
Greg, what is it like when greats of yesteryear get together like this? And we are talking the very greatest of the great here. Is it an occasion for the retelling of familiar stories that are exaggerated every time you retell them? Does it depend on what the players have done in the interim period? Whether they've had a busy retirement or a less busy retirement. I'm interested. Are the memories of your career available for instant recall, or are they getting a bit misty after all this time?
What's your point, Guinea? Look, I think we're all getting better as we get older. We're really good because luckily most of the people that were around at that stage have died, so we can tell anything that we like.
Greg, you scored 3 centuries against Imran captain sides, didn't you? Including a double 100 and the one and your last one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Bring me along and I'll remind him of how good you are.
Look, it is a wonderful time when we get together. The guys that we played against a lot, particularly, and guys that have been at the top of their game and the game in their career, I think there is a great level of respect between each individual. And Imran said that day that we met him in his Prime Minister's office that he hadn't had that much fun for years, and it was because we were remembering some of those. And Shane Watson was the youngest of the group in the room. Shane just enjoyed sitting back listening to
to
the stories. And, the contests that Imran and I had, the contests that Imran and Viv had, he won some, we won some. And I think there's a mutual respect there for that sort of thing. And, when I first went to Pakistan as a player, I mean, it was Imran that made sure that the Australian team got to enjoy some of what the average person wouldn't get to see in Pakistan. So, we got experiences that the average tourist wouldn't get. And in fact, the average tourist probably doesn't go that often to Pakistan.
Although I think on that 1982, he didn't play.
He played in the first Test match. Oh, sorry, in 19. He did in the first Test match.
Yeah, right.
But then we went.
And then the frigates were just too flat after that. He thought,
he knew because the first Test match was
so
a
they
spinning
won it,
wicket.
didn't they? Yep.
They won that. They had 2 really good spinners. Yep. We had Ray Bright, who was a very good spinner, but we were a spinner short, pretty much. And the wickets they made new to Dennis Lillee. So Imran played in that first Test match in Karachi, which they won. Yep. And he said to Dennis, "Are you going to play in Faisalabad?" And Dennis said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I'm not." He knew what was coming, so he had hamstring problems for the rest of the season.
Test match in Faisalabad was the one where Rod Marsh bowled.
That's right.
Everybody
bowled.
If Rod Marsh had a decent wicketkeeper, he would have got a wicket.
Who kept?
It was you.
Funny enough, yes.
That camaraderie was there very early on, isn't it? I mean, perhaps it's developed more, but I note with Sonny saying that Imran begged him to stay on for one more year, so that because when Pakistan played India, he wanted to say that they beat Sonny's team, a team with Sonny, and Sonny agreed because of that. And that's the kind of respect you guys have among each other. Probably it backdates, doesn't it?
It does, and I mean, going back to those stories, Gideon, about what we remember and whether they get better or get exaggerated. The beauty of it is when you're in that company, the stories are the true stories and the honest stories. Nobody embellishes the stories because everybody knows the story.
Do you have anything planned? Is there a next step with this issue, Greg?
No, it was the great challenge was getting it out there.
Yeah.
It came together much more quickly and much more easily than I expected. I thought there might be a lot of people because of the political connotation. A few people thought it was all too hard, but as I tried to explain to everyone, we're not wanting to get into the reeds of the politics because that weakens our voice. This is a human rights issue, and if we stay at that level, we've got a strong voice. And, you know, as I say, guys were coming back to me within a minute to say, yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
It surprised me just how you know, I think everyone was in the same boat. We all wanted to do something, but we didn't know how to do it. And doing it as an individual, you were going to be just a drop in the ocean that would disappear overnight and have no real impact. This seems to have had some real impact. Now I think we need to step back and sort of say, how do we keep that impact coming to make sure that it does have some long-lasting impact rather than just get lost in the next news cycle?
I don't think there's any danger of Imran getting lost in the news cycle. It's almost seemed the more they tried to rub him out, the more vivid he seems to become.
And particularly if things like this happen, letters like this have really sort of shone the light back on Pakistan, haven't they? I mean, we were all paying attention when he was deposed in 22 and convicted in 23, but after a while, there's no... Imran's in jail, Imran's in court, Imran's in jail. It kind of just becomes a part of life, doesn't it? This has been a disruptor.
It has been, and I mean, the message I got back from The Age this morning is that it's the most read story.
Really, right.
That's great.
In their lineup, and it's touched a lot of people, so that really is good.
Yeah, it got a lot of traction on Cricket et al.'s website as well, so it's engaged our readers too. Thank you for taking time to speak about this, Greg. While we've got you here, though, we have to sort of have a couple of trivial questions, don't we? Have you been watching the World Cup?
I've been busy.
I wish we'd been busy.
It's the wrong end of the day for me. I'm an early morning person, and I really haven't got into it. It just didn't sort of get on my radar early on. I was a little bit concerned that in the conditions that we may not have had the right mix of players, and I'm not that surprised that we are in the position we are. It's not over yet, but you know the fat lady stood up, I think. But you know, if they can get through, who knows? But you know, Pakistan conditions, or you know, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's a tough place to bat. The ball sticks in the wicket a bit. Like in India, when it spins, it still comes on. But in Sri Lanka and the West Indies, the ball sticks in the wicket a little bit. I can remember talking to Sachin about batting against Murali, because you know the way Murali bowled, it flew differently. He said, you know, batting against him in Sri Lanka, if I bat for any length of time against him, I get very sore in the left groin. Said because you're sort of stopping and starting all the time. And I mean, the Indian team would be beaten by Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka and go back to India and play them 4 weeks later and belt them. Just because the conditions were very different. So batting in Sri Lanka is not easy. What works on Australian pitches doesn't necessarily work there. And just when I looked at the side, I just thought, this is a BBL team. You know, this is picked on BBL form. I'm not sure that that's going to work in those conditions. So I'm not surprised that it's gone the way it's gone.
And you're a custodian of Australian cricket, sort of back at headquarters back in the day. This is the big one that Gideon dropped on me the other day. Where do you reckon Australian cricket's at the moment? They're looking to sell the BBL, 8-month gap between test matches. Summer was interesting, huge attendances during the Ashes, absolutely sensational, like in live audience and television audience, when the teams could get it together to play more than 2 days.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that Cricket Australia's got to look at this opportunity. But once it's done, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So it has to be really, really well considered, and it has to be transparent. I think that we all need to know what's happening.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because, as I say, once it's happened, it's gone. And it might be 49% or it might be 20%, but these are powerful These are going to be powerful individuals, and they're going to have operations around the world. I wrote a piece, I don't think it's seen the light of day yet, but just recently on what cricket will look like in 25 years' time.
We'll publish it, Greg.
You'll publish
certainly.
it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if
The age will be out of business by then, but we'll still be going.
We'll pay you a T-shirt. What size are you?
no, as long as you pay me the same amount that you get, I'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, I think the challenge for cricket, the challenge for Test cricket has always been, and particularly in the last 20 years, the cost of developing Test cricketers is exorbitant. I know what Cricket Australia was spending, some years ago when I was working there, and it's in the 20 to 30 million. Well, it was in the 20 to 30 million mark. I'm sure it's gone higher than that
Per player.
just to run our development
to run that part of the program. Yep.
programs. This is looking just at the men's program. So that includes domestic cricket. To have a successful Test team, you've got to have a robust first-class cricket competition. And it's no surprise that the teams that have done well in Test cricket over the years have had good domestic cricket competitions. And funnily enough, most of them have had 16. South Africa in the day, Australia in the day, West Indies in the day. They were 6 teams. But it was a really strong and robust competition. England, slightly different, bigger population and so on. But if you were designing domestic cricket in England today, you wouldn't build what they've got. You'd do it very differently. So the cost of developing players to have a successful Test team. New Zealand perform out of this world when you consider the number of cricketers that they've got.
Yeah.
But it's an expensive exercise. So for countries that have never played Test cricket, they're not going to do it. They're not going to be able to build that sort of infrastructure. So an Ireland or, Italy, they're not going to build that sort of infrastructure. So it's going to be white ball cricket for most of them. Even Sri Lanka, who've got a good domestic base, but it's club cricket, not first-class cricket.
Almost school cricket.
They'd need another level between what they call first-class cricket and Test cricket. So there's only going to be at most 6 teams that are going to be able to do that. And I'm not sure that everybody's committed to Test cricket. And as these franchises get bigger and bigger and stronger, they will own the players. So you look at the West Indies at the moment. The West Indies is a provider of talent. It's a recruiting ground because their best players, as soon as they've got a reputation, are gone to white ball 2020 cricket, basically. So a West Indian Test team at the moment is a third elect. And it's only going to get worse because there is no money, there is no no sponsors, there's no anything in the West Indies. So those West Indian players can't wait to get the opportunity to go and sign up with the franchises. So I think what we're going to see is stronger and stronger franchises. They're going to own the players and they'll lease them back to their countries for the odd Test match or the odd international game, much like football, soccer. The teams, the clubs own the players. And they let them go occasionally. So I think as part of this sale, if it goes ahead of the BBL, there should be something in there that if someone gets signed for X, 10% of that should go to the state that developed them. The country.
Well, the IPL gives Australia that cut. I don't know if it does everybody else. And didn't the West Indies come to Australia and ask for the same for their players in the BBL, and they were denied it because?
Well, that's this is where the game is. It's been pretty much everyone for themselves, and in that process, someone like the West Indies has fallen out the back door.
Exactly. Been exploited.
I think, 20 years ago we were talking about it. Something's got to be done, otherwise they'll be gone. And they're gone.
They're gone, yeah.
But they're still competitive at youth level. They're still, talent is not their problem. They just haven't got the money, the infrastructure to develop those players. to be the great West Indian cricket teams of the past.
There was a great sadness watching that last test in Jamaica when it concluded. You almost felt like, gee, that's just not going to happen again. That was their last shot. That was, they put, the local governments put money into those things. The board put a lot of effort into it, and they were smashed. They were god, and you sort of felt like, geez, they're just not going to do that again. There's just no upside for them in Test cricket. It just costs them money, and it doesn't. And as one of the fans explained to me, doesn't bring them any happiness anymore because they don't win.
No, and I think, look, we grew up in an era when, the traditional game, and we all loved the traditional game, but, 100 years ago, cricket didn't look like this, and in 100 years' time, it won't look like this. So, I suppose we've just got to accept that that's where it's headed. We can rail as much as we like, and we will, and we'll hopefully be able to maybe stall the inevitable. But you think that, the players have got to demand it, and India has got to want it. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, Test cricket doesn't survive another 25 years.
But here's the amazing thing, just to square the circle, is that 40 years after the kind of the peak of Imran Khan and the peak of Greg Chappell and the peak of Viv Richards, their names still carry incredible weight and authority. Their games still have a magical aura about them. The very sight of them sitting together on a couch talking is something that just would captivate any cricket lover. So there's just enormous power and authority in that red ball format, even today, even for audiences who never saw those players. So that's why you were able to send out a letter, and for a letter like this, and for that letter to matter, and for people to pay heed. So that's the kind of power that you're messing with here, and potentially the power that the game will just simply give away if it doesn't maintain some sort of allegiance to the cricket that we believe in.
And that's a worry, because I have no doubt cricket without Test cricket is not cricket at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, with all due respects, I played a lot of baseball and I enjoy baseball, but T20 cricket has more in common with baseball than it does with cricket.
Oh, absolutely.
And if I was a player today, I would probably enjoy playing 20 over cricket and happily do so. But I know, I played 70-odd ODIs or whatever it was. I'm hard-pressed to remember any of them.
I remember one.
But
let's not go there.
Let me guess.
Oh, God.
No, it was around February the 1st, 1981, somewhere like that. I remember a couple because I got some wickets and I loved taking wickets. I loved bowling. I just wasn't good enough.
You had a good bouncer, Greg.
Yeah, I hit Viv between the eyes one day and I was reminding him of that. And beat him for pace. It wasn't a yep and gone past it.
Yeah.
It was at the showgrounds in the first year of World Series cricket.
Oh, is there any footage of it?
Yeah, I wonder. I've never seen it. Quickest.
Kerry wouldn't have taped over those matches, would he?
No, Kerry wouldn't, but I think Alan Bond might have. I think I hit him this particular day because, he wasn't expecting it. And so I thought I better slip it in early because it's probably the only chance I've got. And it really hit his West Indies badge.
Yeah.
And he shook his head and almost bent down and picked the ball up and handed it back to me. I was down there and I just said, "But that's the last one. You won't have to worry about it anymore, but I just wanted to make a point. Anyone can bowl bounces on this wicket." It was a quick wicket. But
you'd already batted at this stage, had you? So there was no fear of retribution.
I was going to get it anyway. It was no retribution. Exactly. It was just it was a regular occurrence. We were getting it every day. But it was, look, when I look back on my career, it's the red ball cricket that I remember and that I treasure the most because it was a test. It tested me in every sense of the word, and just emotionally. Forget about physical, and to go back there day after day, even as a batsman. By the fifth day, you talked about it as a journalist. By the fifth day, you'd had enough. I don't know what it must have been like for the fast bowlers. just emotionally, physically it was tough, but emotionally to come back, particularly if you'd failed in the first innings as a batsman, come back and face the second innings with some confidence when you didn't have any, was a challenge and a half. And that's why I imagine, it's why there's probably only, a certain number of names that are remembered, because for most it was too hard. And I wonder sometimes why the hell we did it, and why you put yourself through it. But it was very satisfying, and whilst none of us loved fast bowling, batting against, we'd rather face medium pacers and spinners every day. But funnily enough, making runs against that great West Indian team was probably the most satisfying of the lot, because
for sure,
that was hard work. But the memories are there, and I treasure those because I know that was the hardest part of the game. I could probably bowl 4 overs now in 3 spells. But I just don't know how you get memories out of that sort of length of contest. Okay, it's 120 contests, but it's not as demanding. And as I watch the short format of the game now, not one ball is tried to be hit on the ground. Yep. Everything goes in the air, and they are swinging it as hard as they can. That doesn't remind me of cricket.
No.
I have faith in the good sense of the Australian public, at least, and perhaps the broader cricket public, that this morning no one gives a flying F that we're out of the World Cup. But had we been talking the morning after we'd lost the Ashes, Australia, the entire nation will be in despair and outraged, and and everybody would be out of a job at the end of the week. So no one's going to lose their job over losing the World Cup, or maybe not.
No, that sums it up pretty well, I reckon.
So have some, Thanks very much, Greg Chappell. Been an honour to have you on.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Gideon.
Thanks very much. It's all we've got time for on Cricket at All. Great to have you with us. We'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
And it's good night from him. Free Imran Khan.
Free Imran Khan.